I'm all ready for that.
You're all ready for Mars?
I'm ready. Fly me to Mars. Yeah.
You keep messing up my awesome intros because you're never quiet for 5 seconds before we start.
Sorry.
And I just click live at random times. And then it ruins the TikTok. Time to rock. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's watching from all over the world. And even from Mars. Or the moon, maybe. Because some people think it's closer.
Yeah.
Hey, AP.
Yes.
Check. People
Check.
saying we're... Sunrise in Paradise says you're muted. Say that one more time. Say that one more time, Sunrise in Paradise, because you're going to get blocked for being a troll and trying to distract everyone.
If you say that one more time, you'll get blocked. Did AP ever say why his live stream the other day was stopped? Yeah, I decided to go live during the day. That was the day after I decided to actually do a live stream with David, which didn't happen because I felt I had a headache and I was in a bad mood to talk about things. Then the next day, I thought, let me just go live and just talk about this on my own. But then the time came to talk about this, and I was like, now I'm in an even worse mood, and I really don't want to talk about this because I'm going to start bashing people, and I don't like doing that. So.
Very rude, very rude. Yeah, it's good to have D Wood. It's good to have D Wood with you to keep your temper in check.
Alhamdulillah, that's true.
So, AP.
Yes,
That's
me.
If Elon said, hey, we're finally ready to send the first person to Mars. Just so you know, it's going to be a one-way trip. It's going to be a one-way trip. The first person there is basically going to reach Mars. He'll have time to send one message back to Earth, and then he will die. But he will go down in history as the first person ever on Mars. Do you do it?
Yes. I will go there, and I will say my final message will be stay away from Islam.
That'll be awesome. Because that's the reason, right? It's like, I mean, if you utter the first words from Mars, that's like, this is one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind, right? Everyone's always going to remember that. And if it's, you'd have to make it funny too. I'd be like, if I landed, and it's like, okay, you only have 30 seconds before you die. I'd be like, greetings, Earthling. This message is from Mars. Stay away from Islam. You see? He said it and then he died. You see, this is the proof. This is the proof.
Punished him right there, you see.
No, it'd be fine. I'd do that. Now I got a family. If I didn't have a family, it would just be a done deal. You wouldn't even have to ask me twice. Like I'll do it. I'll volunteer to be the first guy to be on Mars and then drop dead as soon as I get there. That'd be cool. Legend status. But anyway, guys, we're here. I pulled up this topic because I was about to watch this last night. It was Piers Morgan had Neil deGrasse Tyson on his show to call him out for basically saying that this Mars stuff is not going to happen anytime soon. That's what it sounded like. I did see the clip on where he said that with Bill Maher. Saw that. So I was about to watch Pierce ask him about that because you would think that Neil deGrasse Tyson, that's he's an astrophysicist. He's probably wants to do more space exploration and so on. So why would he be like, that's not going to happen. Your kids will never do that. Get off my lawn, right? So I was wondering why, and anyway, I wanted to see it. I wanted to see what he would say if he were challenged on this issue. And then I was like, well, that's not normally something we'd cover. We normally talk about political topics involving Islam and Israel and so on, or we talk about religious topics. Anyway, just thought we'd just go ahead and watch it live and see if anyone's interested in this Mars stuff. I don't know. But I understand people's concerns about technology because isn't it wild? Like, hey, I didn't think in my lifetime we were going to see a rocket that could take off and then spin around and land, right? It's like, I understood they would eventually come up with that at some point in the future. I didn't think I was going to see that sort of stuff. Hey, AP.
Yes.
I told you about the Space Needle before, didn't I? I told you about the Space Needle.
I hope so. I don't know.
When someone Yeah, I just turned 6. So I lived with my mom.
You just turned 6?
I just turned 6. I lived in Belchertown, Massachusetts. I turned 6. So this is Massachusetts. This is East Coast. And my mom tells me right before the summer, your dad is in Alaska. I'm sending you to see him. It'd been a while since I had seen my dad. So she said my dad had sent a plane ticket and she was going to send me on a plane to Alaska. By myself, mind you, by myself. She literally stuck me on a plane and I got on the plane to go to Seattle. Was flying to Seattle because that's where my dad would meet me and then we would go up to Alaska. So anyway, 6 years old, flew across the entire continental United States. Even had a layover somewhere. I don't remember. I just remember this flight attendant helped me. This flight attendant helped me show me where to go and stuff like that. So anyway, so I got on the next plane, land in Seattle. My dad tells me that we've got some time before we head to Alaska, so we're going to go in the Space Needle. Said, hey, we're going to go up in the Space Needle. Now, if you're 6 and you hear we're going up in the Space Needle, and you don't know it's just a stupid building. What do you think? You say, I'm going up in outer space. It's going to be just like Star Trek, right? Okay. So we're getting closer to the Space Needle, right? We're in a cab and we're getting closer to the Space Needle. And I'm looking at that thing. And I'm thinking, there's no way we have the technology to land that thing back, right? Because it's shaped just like a building, except it has a saucer section on top. Anyway, I'm looking at this going, okay, this thing's going to blast off. It's going to take us into space. That's all pretty easy to understand. How's that thing going to land? It's going to come down like this, and it's going to have to spin around and land again. There's no way we have technology to do that. I would have heard about this technology. I would have heard that we could do this. I would have heard about this thing. I've heard nothing. This means this is all experimental stuff. And this thing's we're all going to die when we get back down, right? Because this thing's not going to be able to spin around. I know it. We're all dead. So anyway.
That's funny, man.
So anyway, no, it gets cooler. So we get inside, we go through the doors of the Space Needle, and I'm like, okay, as long as I'm down here and I see a clear path to the exit, I'm okay. This thing's not blasting off while everyone's just standing down here in the lobby, right? So as long as I'm down here near the exit, we're totally fine. So we're sitting there walking around, dee. And then my dad's like, okay, let's go up. Like, oh no, I don't want to go up. Like, no, go up. And I'm thinking, no, we're going to die. I'm not falling for this experimental spacecraft and we're all going to die. I'm not doing it. And so anyway, he gets me over by the elevator and then he grabs me, right? He grabs me and he pulls me in the elevator, right? So I bite on his arm, right? Cause he's got me like so I chomp on his arm, right? But my dad, he grew up in an orphanage, and so he had a pretty good tolerance for pain. So he just takes it like a boss as the elevator's going up, and I'm sitting there, all right, taking me up there. There's people around. I'm sitting there chomping, and we're going up in the elevator. And finally, we get up to the top. The doors open. I'm like, it's gonna be too late. No, I turn, and they're like windows in the viewfinders. You know, those big sets of binoculars you put a quarter in. And I'm like, hey, what? Huh? Wait a minute. Right? So I look around, I'm like, this thing doesn't blast off. The heck what are you calling it? It's a Space Needle for? This thing is not even close to space, you giant morons. Anyway, it was false advertising.
Space Needle. This kind of reminds me of what I thought of skyscrapers when I heard them. It even sounds worse in German. It's called a Wolkenkratzer, which means
it doesn't sound worse. It sounds cooler.
Which means a cloud scratcher, basically. And I always thought, when I was a little child, I thought, why do they call it that? Is it because they actually do something to the clouds?
So anyway, I found out that the Space Needle it does not actually blast off, that there was no need for this thing to land because it wasn't going to take off, that people name things just to get you to go in there, even though they're not doing anything. It's false advertising. But anyway, I was glad we weren't blasting off. But anyway, it was way back there. So keep in mind, that's just when I was a kid. And I was like, there's no way they got the technology to do this. It makes no sense. It makes no sense to have the technology to do this. And then Elon, out of nowhere, a couple years ago, does it. And and rapidly develops it because you can look those you can look at those things like here's what they're doing 5 years ago, here's what they're doing 4 years ago, here's what they're doing 3 years ago, here's what they're doing 2 years ago, here's what they're doing 1 year ago, here's what they're doing now, and it's like, whoa, they're advancing that rapidly. Starts looking like they might be able to pull some of this weird stuff off.
That's funny.
Weird, wild, interesting stuff.
Oh, baby, baby, it's a wild world.
And so now it's starting to look, just with this one guy, starting to actually look believable. You might
So
get
what's
to
happening?
Mars.
What what are we looking at?
We're going to watch Neil deGrasse Tyson going, no, you're not going to do that. No, stop trying to do cool things in space. You're diverting attention away from me and the new atheist. Elon bad because he no politically agree with me.
I don't know what people's problem is with some of the developments that are like that seem very extreme, even in terms of technological development. I've always maintained, and I still think that if the day comes and I don't know, Elon Musk's company or others say, okay, after many tests, we have now concluded that we have a product for a neurochip that we can put in your brain, and you will immediately start having access to the internet and the vast range of new functions. But we are still testing. There are risks attached to it. I would say, I don't care about the risks. Give me the chip. I want it right now. But people are always like, no, I don't trust this. What if there's a devil in there?
What if it's the microchip mark of the beast? I've heard that. But what if Elon's like, hello, apostate prophet, we have our new Neuralink, but it looks exactly like your 99 names of Allah plug, and it has to be inserted in through the most
I don't
direct.
care.
The most direct route will be in through your butt, and it
I'm
then
fine. I don't care.
connects
I'm
to your
okay.
brain. You're good.
I'm okay with it. Yeah, I'm okay
You're
with
good.
it.
Okay. All
What's
right.
the problem?
All right. So, long story short, it seems that our good friend Neil deGrasse Tyson has the mentality of a 6-year-old David Wood going, this is not going to work. You're not going to make this work.
Powerful.
You're not going to make this work. So
Powerful.
let's go ahead and check some of this out.
Powerful.
Let's go. Oh, hang on. We got a super chat here real quick. You guys were incredible on Avery's channel the other night. AP, I sent you a website for your research on X. Don't think links work in super chat. You sent him a website for his research on X. Are you researching X?
No, that means send me a message on X for my research.
Oh, okay. So now you know.
Alhamdulillah.
All right, guys. We're going to check out Elon Musk versus Neil deGrasse Tyson, two extremely intelligent individuals, both in the sciences. Elon more so in engineering, Neil deGrasse Tyson more so in astrophysics. But Neil, very, very informed in issues of science, poo-pooing the idea that Elon will follow the advice of Total Recall and get your butt to Mars. Get your butt to Mars. All right, let's check out some of this.
There was a joke video a long time ago by this guy who doesn't talk to me anymore because he's a Nazi guy. Saitan. He made a video about Neil deGrasse Tyson, where Neil deGrasse Tyson is asked by Zuckerberg science questions, and he was kind of doing a very overdone but hilarious and kind of a messed up joke about his job and expertise as astrophysicist. So
Nice. All right, well, fortunately, we had our good friend Pierce Morgan challenging Neil for challenging Elon and spreading doubt amongst the population.
doubts, man.
What doubts, man?
The world's most famous astrophysicist, Neil deGrasse Tyson, made a lively appearance on Bill Maher's show recently. His answer to a particular question set him on a cosmic collision course with the world's most famous engineer.
Cosmic collision course.
How soon could Elon Musk realistically send humans to Mars? Another good question.
I have strong views on that. My read of the history of space exploration is such that we do big, expensive things only when it's geopolitically expedient, such as we feel threatened by an enemy. And so for him to just say, let's go to Mars because it's the next thing to do, what does that venture capitalist meeting look like? So, Elon, what do you want to do? I want to go to Mars. How much will it cost? $1 trillion. Is it safe? No, people will probably die. What's the return on the investment? Nothing. That's a 5-minute meeting, and it doesn't happen. So,
everyone got the gist there? So he wasn't saying that you can't get to Mars or that it's too much scientifically. It's very expensive, and that his familiarity with the history of technology suggests that those kinds of really big things to do and really expensive things to do, they happen when people are really, really scared about something, and they're willing to say, okay, let's just toss as much money as we need at this, and let's do it. No matter how much it costs, we got to do it. It has to be done. It says those things tend to happen when you are scared about something. There is some threat. And so the idea is like the moon landing. That was happening at a time where Russians were doing space exploration, and we did not want them to get the technology ahead of us. And so wanted to send a message to the entire world that these commie scumbags are not going to out-technology us. And so it became a matter of survival during the Cold War. You had to show that you have greater technology than the commies. So there was a reason people were scared. People were scared of what the Russians were doing in space, and that they were going to get greater technology than us, in which case they could be raining down nukes upon us if we do not trump their technology. So that's the idea. It's like, hey, you could get to Mars. Yeah, you could even get a Mars colony and so on. You have to have like the world in a state of panic over something that's going to happen. But you can't just say, hey, we want to go up and we want to go to Mars, and it's going to be a really cool thing to do. That's his position. You cannot do it unless everyone in the world is terrified. You got this so far?
It's so weird. It's. I expected something from him here that is science based, but the response that he gave is like. I mean, you and I may even be more qualified to talk about this than he is. The whole geopolitics aspect of it, and it's just such a cynical approach. I don't know. Maybe I just expected something scientific from him as reasoning in response to the whole going to Mars question, but then got something political instead. But it doesn't really have to be that way. I mean, Elon Musk has been spending a lot of force, effort, and money into simply getting these things done, and the progress so far seems incredible.
Yeah. So the idea from Neil there is not. Yeah. As far as I can tell, and I don't know what he's going to say in this interview, but as far as what he was saying there was, he wasn't doubting that you could do it scientifically. He wasn't doubting that you could get there or even build a base. He's just saying, you're going to need a lot of money, more than even super rich Elon has, way more than that to actually pull this off. And so you're going to need investors kicking in money. You're going to need big trunks of money. But the people who give endless trunks of money to some cause are people who are saying, okay, what's the return? What are we making off of this? And if the answer is nothing, you'll just get to brag that you helped put a person on Mars. He's saying, no, you're not going to do that. These are people who are interested. People who are going to invest billions and billions of dollars are going to be people who want even more money in return. And you're not getting anything out of this except bragging rights that you made it to Mars. So he's saying you're never going to get the funding unless, and this is where he has a good point about people being scared. There are other times where it's not, hey, what are we making out of this financially? It's we have to do it anyway because if we don't, we have a really, really big problem. It doesn't matter if you get it. Like when it became, hey, we have to show the Russians that we have greater technology than they do. We have to send that message to the world that we're not going to be outdone tech-wise. Then it became, okay, we're not talking about how much money we're going to make by going to the moon. It's we have to do this to send this message. But that seems pretty straightforward. Then all you have to do is send everyone into a panic that we're all going to go extinct if we don't get to Mars, which, interestingly, that's kind of what Elon's saying, that in order for consciousness to continue, we need to spread out. We need to spread out to other planets so that some big event just can't wipe us all out here on Earth. And so we're all going to die unless we get to
man.
unless we get to Mars, ladies and gentlemen. All right, so we heard Neil's response, and now we get to hear from Pierce as he challenges him, and Elon also fired back on Twitter. I'm sure Pierce is going to bring that up because he does these nice little recaps at the beginning of his shows. But anyway, here's Pierce.
Well, Musk's response to deGrasse Tyson on X was tetchy, to say the least. He wrote, wow, they really don't get it. Mars is critical to the long-term survival of consciousness. I realize that it makes no sense as an investment. That's why I'm gathering resources. So does one of the world's finest minds really just not get it? Well, let's find out. I'm rejoined on Uncensored by Professor Neil deGrasse Tyson. Neil, great to see you.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. Good to see you again.
You just don't get it, says Elon Musk. Your response?
You're stupid.
Well, first of all, I'm not a fan of commenting on what other people commented about what was commented upon. that's just fuel for clickbait on social media. So rather than just respond to what people responded, let me just say I've read extensively about the history of big, expensive projects in our species, going from the pyramids to the Great Wall of China to the Manhattan Project. And you go down that list, and the greatest of them, the biggest of them, the most expensive of them, related to the survival of who participated in it. They felt.
That's what they do.
No, that's interesting because I'm just trying to think through the examples that he gave. He gave pyramids as an example. He gave Great Wall as an example. And then he talked about survival. And then I was thinking, okay, with the Great Wall of China, that makes sense because China was pretty naturally insulated. They had an ocean on one side, then they had mountain ranges and so on. Their concern was the north and those Mongols coming from the north. So, hey, let's just build a big wall there. So that actually fits. You want to do this huge building project to keep out the Mongols. That would be an issue of survival. Didn't work. Mongols went over that wall, under that wall, through that wall, bribed gate guards, but it was barely an impediment to the Mongols, so it failed. But as far as the building project, but I was thinking about the pyramids, and I was thinking, wait a minute, no, the pyramids are actually a perfect example of people wanting to build something big and cool just because it's big and cool, not because you're surviving. But I'm wondering if he's interpreting that as like survival of the soul or your reputation or something like this, because they did, they did bury people. Anyway, I don't know what he's. I'm hoping he explains that, because in my mind, building giant pyramids and all the years it would take to build giant pyramids and all the labor you had to invest in building these pyramids, that seems to weigh in favor of the we like to do cool stuff that people are going to remember, which flying to Mars would be like that. So
Something like that. Yeah.
something like that.
Them related to the survival of who participated in it. They felt threatened. And so, sorry, the pyramids was not that. That was praise of royalty or deity. That's another big driver that existed in the history of our species. Much less of that happens today. And
that's interesting, because if you said praise of your deity, that would actually include like churches. Why do people work for a century on building a huge cathedral? It's like, hey, you're not getting a big return on an investment there. You're not building, now we finished it and now we get trillions of dollars or something like that. So he has another category. But I don't know. I think you could, even if you wanted to couch it in terms of, okay, you either are if you're doing these big projects and you're either trying to get piles of money in return, so a return on an investment, that doesn't make sense if you're going to Mars, because you're not going to get a huge return on investment. You're going to spend a ton of money and you're not going to make that back, at least not anywhere in the near future. But if you wanted to say they also do it to glorify a man, like a pharaoh or something like this, or to glorify God or gods or something like that, I think you could put the trip to Mars in that category. Like, hey, what if Elon just wants to show how freaking awesome he is and go down in history with legend status? Then you could do it. So, in your face, Neil, you've already refuted yourself. We don't even need to continue watching, but we will watch for a little bit.
Most of it is driven by the "I don't want to die" gene. And so we went to the moon. We felt threatened by the Russians, the godless commies, around the world.
Darn
and
right.
so
Scumbag.
these are the motivations that enable people to write checks. And at any time people said, let's do it because it's the natural next thing to do, it just never happens. If you go back to the Apollo era, while we were going to the moon, people forgetting that we went there as a militaristic statement, people who forgot that said, oh, we're on the moon by 1969, we'll be on Mars by 1985. They were just extending a timeline that they thought was a natural, inevitable thing. And nothing that's expensive is ever inevitable. So that's the foundations of my comment. And in terms of going to Mars as a survival plan, if you think about what could put life at risk here on Earth, that could include, global, very serious pandemic, or asteroid strikes, or we trash the climate, whatever. To think of Mars as Earth 2.0 could only really happen after you terraform Mars. And the point I made, which was not in your clip, was if you have the power of geoengineering to terraform Mars, then you have the power of geoengineering to fix Earth and turn Earth back into Earth, as opposed to Mars back into Earth. So just realistically, shipping 1 billion people to Mars, or however many, by the way, I have nothing against that. I just don't see it happening based on my
That's not a bad point.
No, that was an okay point. Guys, we hope everyone understood that point that he was making there. So Elon, it's interesting because Neil deGrasse Tyson is saying, hey, the only way you're going to pull something, the only way you're going to get the financial backing, the only way you're going to get the checks signed to make this happen is if people are actually scared about their future and scared for their survival. And so how is Elon actually sort of selling this message? He's saying, hey, we have to get there for our survival. There are all sorts of things. If we're all in one place and something big happens, we're doomed. Unless we're actually on multiple planets, and then we'll be safe. Because even if one place gets blown up, then there'll still be other human beings in other parts of the world. And so that makes sense. But Neil deGrasse Tyson just pointed out, hey, if you want to actually make Mars like like a backup Earth, a backup planet, and there's a lot of people there. So keep in mind, he's not talking about just having some little colony of like 10 or 20 people or something like that. He's talking about, hey, if you actually want to make this a sustainable, thriving environment where human beings, even if they disappeared on Earth, by golly, they are okay on Mars, you need something big. You need to terraform the place. That means you need to change the atmosphere and stuff like that to make it so that human beings can just live there. He said, if you had that kind of technology, if you had the kind of technology that's required for turning Mars into another Earth, you could protect Earth. So what are you thinking about? Like a giant meteor is going to crash into Earth and like cause us to all go extinct? If you had the technology to terraform Mars, then you'd have the ability to deal with stuff like that. You'd have the ability to deal with climate change and whatever else you're worried about here on Earth. So why wouldn't you just use that technology to protect humans there instead of spreading them around if you have that level of technology? So I say fair point. I changed my mind. Elon has been completely refuted. Give up on going to Mars, ladies and gentlemen.
I've been humiliated.
Unless you know, to be fun, like crowdfunding it. It's like, hey, everyone send me $5.
Let's do a GoFundMe to go to the Mars. Go to Mars.
That would be funny. GoFundMe to go send Elon to Mars. Nice.
Of human behavior.
So a lot to unpack there. Look, I've got massive respect for you. I also have a lot of respect for Musk. I also like the fact that he dares to dream very big. And I actually had the honor, actually, I would describe it, of spending a couple of hours with him down in France in the summer, where we got into
On
the
Epstein
colonization
Island.
of Mars and why he felt so passionately about it. And he said a few things. One, he said we have to do this because at some stage, planet Earth is just not going to be a viable place anymore, was his belief. Secondly, that inevitably at some stage, planet Earth will be incinerated by the sun anyway. We don't know when that will happen, but one day it will happen. I'll get your response
We
to
do.
that.
One second. Wanted to go to this comment here.
It's gonna happen quite soon in a few billion years.
Steven says, you don't necessarily have to terraform, though. That's just Tyson's closed-mindedness. Yeah, you don't need to terraform. You don't need to do that if you just want to get someone to Mars. You don't need to do anything. You fly someone to Mars, and then they could land and die. Most of the things when they're showing like graphics and so on, it's like some sort of base, and then you kind of expand the base on Mars. But I think, and Neil has a point here. He's saying, if you're saying that this is going to be backup humanity in case humanity gets wiped out on Earth, there's some cataclysmic event and life on Earth gets wiped out, and this is your backup, you kind of need more than just a little tiny colony, because I mean that colony could be destroyed pretty easily. So you need to be pretty widespread there, and so it seems you need something. You need something like terraforming, unless you're just going to keep expanding these settlements all over the place.
In all honesty, I don't at this point fully understand why the whole Mars expedition thing would have such great priority, unless it is simply for, to conduct research on Mars, which, by the way, NASA is abundantly engaging in. They have a whole thing set up. An island somewhere, some Canadian island set up, which they found, which they thought is very suitable to replicate the circumstances on Mars, where they test out things repeatedly, and then
you said there's an island. There's an island on Earth where you can replicate.
Replicate some circumstances of Mars, like I don't know the details of it. Like
you got gravity problems, you got atmosphere problems. Where is this in Canada, AP?
It's not for the gravity aspect. It's for the daylight, temperature, things like that. So they tested out there. They have sent a device up there with which they have already gotten footage and so on. But the whole colonizing aspect, it's kind of a fun thing to think about, but I don't understand why that would have great priority. Researching, totally. Colonizing, why?
As far as what Elon says, now he just may have other ideas in mind. What he's saying is humanity needs to spread out. That's what he's saying.
No.
He's saying in order to survive, we need to spread out. It's not going to
I'm not
last forever
spreading
here.
out. I'm not spreading out. Not doing it.
Too bad. You don't have a say in the matter. You can stay here like a little weakling, but we are going to take all the jihadis and send them to Mars so they can.
That's a good point.
People here don't want to go with your what'd you call it? That little land of yours?
Which little land?
You drew a map and you had one area that's just for fighting.
Oh, Civil Waristan. Yeah.
Oh yeah, Civil Waristan. Yeah, people on Earth might not go for Civil Waristan unless you can pitch it for Antarctica and so on. But if people don't want it anywhere near them, that leaves Mars. We send all the jihadis to Mars.
That makes sense.
We tell them there's a bunch of little child brides there. Like, oh man, there were all these little 6-year-old child brides waiting for you on Mars. What? Let's get on the next ship. Hey, that would be a funny skit. Like Elon's like, what are we gonna do? We need the funding to get to Mars. We just need to make something up to get the funding. Be like, oh, we know. Let's say there's all these little Martian child brides, and they're all virgins, and they all want to get banged. All of a sudden, like Saudi Arabia, and all these places like start making it rain money. Making it rain.
Secondly, that inevitably at some stage, planet Earth will be incinerated by the sun anyway. We don't know when that will happen, but one day it will happen. I'll get your response
We
to
do.
that.
We do know when it'll happen, but yeah.
When will it happen on that point?
Long time.
Oh, yeah, let me check my calendar.
But, I mean,
No, the sun will
do we have any idea when that may happen?
transition. Yeah, the sun will transition into a red giant phase, assuming it behaves like every other star, just like it. And as it does, its outer shell will expand, and the surface of the sun will get closer and closer to Earth, and it will evaporate. Our oceans will come to a rolling boil and evaporate into the atmosphere. The atmosphere will evaporate into space, and Earth will be a charred ember that will get swallowed.
Why are
by
you
the sun.
laughing?
Glad you find this funny.
Neil,
Exactly
this
what I was
is
thinking.
funny.
Yeah, exactly.
Why are you laughing?
Finally, Pierce was thinking the exact same thing. It's like you got Neil deGrasse Tyson, and then everyone's gonna be dead. My mission will be complete. Then there will be no one left to believe in God, and our mission will finally be complete.
Man.
Let your Jesus save you then. And with my dying breath, I will say, where is your God, Christians? All right, I backed up a little
Be
bit.
a charred ember that will get swallowed
Why
by
are
the
you
sun.
laughing,
And Mars,
Neil? This
being
is not
farther
funny.
from the sun,
You're painting a picture of utter extinction and apocalypse. Why are you laughing?
yeah, that's it. No, because it's not that it's funny. It's that it's in 5 billion years.
Right.
So we have a whole lot of other sort of prioritized things we should.
got a
be
good
thinking
window of
about
time.
between now and
Okay.
then.
But on the
and by
principle-
then we might have colonized other star systems.
Right. So
Hey, did you catch that? He said by that time we could have colonized other star systems. So he believes it's going to happen. He's just saying you have a ton of time. To do it now would be very, very expensive and very difficult. And there's no emergency status. So when Elon's talking about like spreading to other planets to save us, he's saying if you're talking about the sun, then that's billions of years in the future. So that shouldn't be a concern. You got plenty of time to worry about that. So you'd have to be thinking about like giant rocks crashing into Earth and wiping us out or something like that. So I think he's going to be saying, why don't you focus on that technology instead of changing Mars or something?
here's the thing about Mars.
Nothing.
He said, look, if we're going to do this, and he believes passionately we need to do this as a kind of backup, really, for the survival of the human species. He said, you have to replicate exactly the conditions of Earth. And he said, for example, if you forget about one vitamin, everyone would die up there, right? So everything has to be replicated in a way that you can replicate exactly what happens here on Mars. From an astrophysicist's point of view, is that actually technically possible? Is there any reason why we couldn't colonize Mars from just a pure technical point of view of recreating the conditions in which human existence exists here?
Yeah, so just let me unpack that, what you said. So, first of all, at the core of this, other than living in habitat modules, either underground or just, wherever, that have to be heated because Mars is very cold, and Mars has barely any atmosphere, so you have to pump that in as well. Short of that, Elon has great ambitions of terraforming Mars. I love it.
He is
I
talking
once
about terraforming.
stole a coffee mug from SpaceX that had Mars on it, and I kept it on my shelf for a very long time. I don't drink coffee much, but I enjoy space-themed coffee mugs.
Did he just say he stole one? Mm-hmm. That'd be funny if he got an arrest warrant. Like he just confessed to a crime.
One day I said, I'm going to have a hot chocolate. And so I put hot chocolate in there, which heated the mug. And while the mug heated, Mars terraformed into Earth. So I said, that's a classy move right there.
Oh, did you guys hear this? Did you hear this?
Yes.
Did you? So, guys, apparently there that's funny. There are coffee mugs at SpaceX. He said he stole one because he likes space mugs, and he doesn't drink coffee though, so he wasn't using it. So eventually he poured hot chocolate in there, but It's heat activated, and when you heat it, Mars terraforms into Earth. So that is a pretty interesting. If those are just if these are just the mugs that people are using, it's interesting. You know what this reminds me of, AP? What you're talking about with in the Old Testament, where the Jews are told to, keep the scriptures around them and on the doorposts and in little boxes and so on. It was like everything was to be a constant reminder of what you're doing. And that's what that sounds like. It's like everything is going to be, just drinking a cup of coffee is going to be a little reminder of what you're trying to do. And you're trying to ultimately, you're trying to terraform Mars. That's, I don't know. I find that fascinating. If you keep there's something correct about that, about constantly keeping everyone's number one goal in front of their faces. I like that.
By the way, I want to clarify what I said earlier, just so everyone knows I didn't make this up. The island is called Devon Island in Canada. It is.
It has 1/3 the gravity of Earth, apparently, according to AP, and a Martian atmosphere.
No, it's the largest uninhabited island, and it is used as we speak right now to replicate basically a possible Mars base because of temperature and daylight and similar things that can be compared to Mars and the surface, not the gravity, David, but the surface and temperature and things like that. Devon Island.
Okay. So yes, temperature wise, yes, you can find very cold spots, and things are going to be pretty rough on Mars. We have a response on this terraforming. 1 second, real quick. Mostly before 2033, rapture may happen. Signs are full. You could definitely point to plenty of signs, Eunuch, but every generation tends to think that there are all kinds of signs because there are.
Beast.
So, in other words, we don't know if we're going to be here a really, 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 really long time. And so, assuming we are, we should take preparations. Searching Deeper says, no need for terraforming Mars. Live deep underground. On Earth, we could easily be wiped out. Tyson is naive. Technology only advances when there is a goal. That alone makes it worth it. Oh, keep in mind, I think it's worth it. But I think Tyson is correct in saying whatever it's going to cost. Let's suppose it's $1 trillion. Let's suppose it's 10 trillion or something like that, whatever it's going to be. You have to get people to pay that. You have to get people to pay that because Elon Musk, as rich as he is, does not have that kind of cash laying around. So you need investors. And what Tyson is saying, you're not getting that kind of investment on saying we're just doing it for scientific research or something.
Brokey.
And as far as I'm still not getting the no need for terraforming. You can live deep underground. Yeah, I have no doubt that you can make a colony. If you're talking about saving humanity from some cataclysmic event that could destroy Earth or destroy the entire population of the Earth or something like that, I don't think a little underground colony on Mars really qualifies as that. Yeah, you will have some human beings surviving. I don't think you have the necessary population to last a terribly long time.
Alhamdulillah.
So in other words, if you want an actual big, and keep in mind, if you just have one little underground colony, you could always get a disaster in that one little underground colony. So anyway, the point is you got to be spread out. You got to be spread around. That's what Elon's actually saying. You got to be spread around so that whatever happens, you've got backup humanity and so on.
It's kind of embarrassing, though. He doesn't even have the money to colonize Mars.
Yeah. Broke Elon. Oh, that's why he needs Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate and his trillions of dollars.
You see, if he just had a sex webcam business, he would be able to colonize Mars.
Hey, that would be funny. That would be funny if Elon's like, okay, well, guys, I want to raise money. And as Neil deGrasse Tyson pointed out, people aren't just going to give you money if they're not getting a return. And I tried a GoFundMe. The GoFundMe didn't work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the world's biggest OnlyFans site. And just know that all the money is going to colonizing Mars.
Alhamdulillah.
And then all of a sudden he gets like $50 trillion overnight. Oh boy. Let's see.
So, and I didn't know that for like a year because I don't use them. I just collect them. But my point is that if you want to ship humans from Earth to Mars, Mars needs to kind of look like Earth. And by the way, it's tantalizingly close in properties relative to other planets. Venus is 900 degrees Fahrenheit. You're not going there. Mars is tipped on its axis. It has seasons. It has a approximately 24-hour day.
It
has
ice
polar
caps.
ice caps,
Ice caps,
as we currently do. And so it's been the object of people.
Has lots of carbon dioxide. So I think people have suggested that there are certain kind of like bacteria and stuff like cyanobacteria and so on that you could, with a bit of effort, get to survive on Mars. But then they start changing things because they use up things and then, anyway. Not sure how long it would I think even then it would, like the idea of terraforming it using species and so on versus that, because you could terraform with like some sort of great technology, like you're creating oxygen or you're melting the ice caps and you're doing things like that. There you'd have technology. But then you have people who are like, hey, if you can get this species to survive there, then it will start using up one thing and then spitting out something else. Anyway, so the point is there, guys, Mars is the best option. Mars is the best option as far as a place where you could actually pull this off.
Fascination for hundreds of years. So I don't have a problem with any of that. I'm just describing the practicality of it. And if you have the technology and the power to terraform Mars and ship people there, you probably have the ability to bat asteroids out of the way that might have been headed towards Earth.
That's true.
So I'm just speaking in practical terms. I'm not trying to stop anybody from dreaming. I love dreaming beyond horizons.
Well, that's the point I was going to make to you.
Ever got done.
Because I was watching the Bill Maher show live, actually, and that was the thing that struck me was, here's Neil deGrasse Tyson, one of the great dreamers, right? I mean, you literally have dreamed big your entire life. This is your raison d'etre, is to think the biggest things imaginable, right? And there you were, it appeared in the moment to be kind of pouring a bit of cold water on probably the biggest thinker on the planet right now and his massive, biggest dream.
So hold your nose, because here goes the cold water. Hey, guys, I'm interested in seeing what people think. Because just based on what I've seen from Neil deGrasse Tyson, political issues do tend to be in his mind. Like he will jump on what he perceives to be an issue that he thinks is on his side of the political spectrum and so on. So do you guys think that he's poo-pooing Elon's plan here because he doesn't like Elon for some reason? Like, oh, Elon's on the wrong side of the political aisle now or something like that. Therefore, I want to shoot down any of his plans. In other words, do you think that if it were someone who's more aligned with him politically and so on, do you think he'd be like, yeah, let's do it. Let's get to Mars. Yeah, it's gonna be hard. We're gonna figure it, but we're gonna figure it out because it's gonna be awesome. Do you think his tune would change if it wasn't Elon? And I'm saying that just because I see a lot of people who don't like Elon because they don't like Elon and they want to shoot down everything they want him to fail. And it's just funny because even people on the left, when Elon's the one building the electric cars and so on, it seems like he's the guy who's taking humanity into the future that a lot of people were saying they wanted. And then as soon as he's on the wrong side of free speech or something like that, then no, we hope this guy fails. Really? You hope this guy, the one who's building the electric cars and really cheap homes, and you hope that guy fails? Because it seems like that would be your guy. And when you say he's not your guy and you hope he's destroyed and all his work comes to nothing, it sounds like to me that your goals weren't really your goals and you had something else in mind, and that was all a big giant smokescreen. So guys, what do you think? Is Neil trying to shoot this down because it's Elon, or would he say this no matter who it was?
Both.
No.
Doesn't even make sense.
Let's see. Neil is only really concerned with who is correct. I don't think it has anything to do with Elon's personality. Yeah, I'm like 50-50 on it, because I've just seen that in the past as far as like the trans issue and so on, where Neil will suddenly start sounding awfully unscientific if it's something where he views it as his side of the political spectrum demands his allegiance. He'll go with that versus over the science. So the point is, everyone in this conversation is a human being here, and so human beings can have biases and so on. Let's see. I used to think Elon was a joke. Now I'm not so sure. Yeah, if you told me 10 years ago, hey, this guy's going to go to Mars, come on. Yeah, maybe a couple hundred years in the future or something like that. Let's see. Well, to be fair, Elon did not design or build anything except a few video games when he was in his teenage years. We're not talking about it in his teenage years. You expect him to get to Mars in his teenage years? I don't know him well enough to comment. I don't pay mind to Neil. Science is not my forte.
Elon Musk designed the best-looking vehicle the world has ever seen.
It looks like my MacBook Pro had a kid with a toaster oven, dude. The ugliest car I've ever seen. I'm all for building fancy vehicles, but man, my goodness, don't make it look like that.
I am joking, but I don't understand the hate it gets for the looks. I think it's kind of funny looking.
It looks exactly like something that a 6-year-old would draw. If you're like, draw your dream truck, and you're like, I'll just have that, like kind of triangle roof here, and that's what it looks like, and then it becomes a reality.
If I was rich by now, as I should be with the subscriber count that I have, and any person who is not doing what I'm doing would be by now, I would probably get one of those vehicles.
Do not do that. I think he's just playing light devil's advocate. He probably agrees with Musk on most things. Yeah, I mean, he said he agrees that you can do it and that we'll eventually need to do something like that. He's just saying, as far as he said, he's only talking about practicality, saying to do this right now, you need a ton of money. To get that kind of money, you have to show what the return on the investment is going to be. Otherwise, you're not going to have investors, and there is no return on this investment, at least not in our lifetimes, and therefore you're not going to get the investors, and so it's not going to happen. Let's see. Wolf says, I think he's bringing in a little too much emotion. Yes. Tyson, big dumb. Gabriel, I don't know. He makes valid arguments. Yeah, by the way, guys, that is a completely valid point. You're not going to get the money to do this, so give it. It's like I can say, hey, I want to buy Cyprus and make it my home. That's my plan. I'm gonna buy Cyprus. All I need is a really big pile of money, and so I'm gonna get that. And it's like, you're not going to do it, David. It's not going to happen. Give it up. Why are you planning on doing that? You can't do it. Or AP's plan about his new redrawn map of the Middle East and the entire world. He could come up with a plan.
The best idea ever. It is the best idea ever. What are you talking about?
AP's awesome plans for. Oh, by the way, any updates on what we were talking about yesterday? Oh, no, I did see an update. I saw Assad is in Russia. So I was like, that's where I said I'd go if I were him. I go to Russia.
Assad fled with his family. His family went ahead, but he just landed in Russia today. Confirmed landed in Moscow. Asylum was granted, so he's now a Syrian refugee in Moscow. And meanwhile,
Can you imagine this? Assad is a Syrian refugee in Moscow. Guys, the stuff that happens has real world implications. You get a bunch of different Muslim groups all fighting for power. Then when one group takes an area, then you get all these refugees because they know the people there know they'll all be killed because the wrong group is in power and so on. So they all have to flee. But then this other group takes over, and now all that are people from that original group, they have to flee and become refugees because they'll be slaughtered by this other group and stuff. And so it's all just great. Thank you. The entire world is going to be filled with Syrians because no one will ever be safe in Syria. Thanks, Muhammad. I blame Muhammad.
There are some big updates today. So what the rebels took over completely. They left no part of Syria uncontrolled, except for the Kurdish parts, which are not under their control. They have also been collaborating with others to take out the last ISIS strongholds. But the thing is, the some of the Islamist rebels have been approaching and fighting Kurds, and the U.S. stepped in and said, "Hey, hold up, hold up, hold up, hold up! Nobody's going to approach Kurdish territories, or else." So that was at least one good thing that the U.S. did. Now, Israel stepped in and said, "There is a buffer zone between us, which is currently unsafe, so we are going to temporarily take control of that for now." Israel stepped in. The thing is, what's emerging today is there is a prison in Syria, which was known as a horrible place full of atrocities.
Did you say a presence or
A
prisons?
prison,
Okay.
prison,
Okay.
prison, the Sadnaya prison,
Can't understand what you say with your freaking stupid Turkish German accent, but go ahead.
which is close to Damascus, a prison where there are emerging details today which are really really messed up, which almost makes me think, wow, I'm totally supporting the rebels now. They're discovering.
Just so everyone knows, because I don't know, but you're dealing with you were dealing with a dictator, and so I would guess if you start checking the prisons or something like that, I'm guessing he has political rivals or just people who disagree with him and so on in here, and I would guess they're treated pretty horribly. That's what I would guess without knowing anything on the topic, but
It's an understatement. There is a lot of stuff that needs to be confirmed, but so far, there's footage of people coming out of there. Some of whom can't speak and respond to when asked what their names are, what their name is. Some people are thought to have been kept there for decades without ever seeing sunlight, in some torture chambers and things like that. Other people that were declared disappeared or dead have been found alive in the dungeons of the prison. There are some rumors and some unconfirmed footage of some lower floors of the prison that were barricaded, with humans being treated in a horrible way. The U.S. Prior to years ago said that it's possible that the Syrian regime started cremating bodies secretly down there, and is probably committing mass atrocities and responsible for people disappearing, and that they just torture down there and then burn up and so on. But there is a lot of stuff coming out of there, and some information which is somewhat confirmed is that there are families in there. There are people in there who were kept for decades, who were raped, who gave birth to children. The children were born and grew up in the prison and are still there today, and so on. It's, I don't know what to say.
that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad. And hey, if that stuff is confirmed, I think a lot of people will be like, yep, maybe these rebels aren't as bad as we thought, even though they're going to turn everything into a Sharia compliant hellhole. But yeah, if basically the more evil people find out Assad is, the more comfortable they'll be with him getting kicked out. Hey,
there is a thing that people don't know.
Hey, one sec. You know what he should say? He should say, "No, guys, I was just doing experiments on what it would be to have an underground colony on Mars. Someone has to do the research, and so I was just researching on what would be necessary for an underground colony. Yeah, it's not pretty. It's not going to be pretty on Mars. What do you want? I'm a scientist." Let's roll with that. What? All right, go ahead.
It's understandable that he immediately left the country. He knew that they were going to brutally.
They would hand him over to those inmates. That's what they would do. They would say, "Hey, here's Assad. We're tossing him down. You guys hungry?"
Yeah, it's now on the news. We have now mainstream news reports showing that there are little children coming out of the prison.
Gosh,
they spent hours forcing open the doors of the prison, and there's a child coming out of a prison cell, and so on. It's
Gosh,
really messed up. I don't.
it's extremely messed up. Your brain doesn't develop properly in certain environments and so on. In other words, you never fully recover. It's not like, oh, the kid gets out and he's spent the first 5 years of his life in an underground dungeon, but oh yeah, he'll be fine now. It's like when you discover like when they've come across feral kids who are like raised by wolves and so on, and they get them when they're older, and they can't teach them language or something like that. It's like there's a window when you're learning certain things, and if it doesn't happen, then you're older and your brain just won't develop the abilities.
It is. Many people don't know this, but Bashar al-Assad is actually he's from a family that kind of made themselves comfortable in a very esoteric cult community of it's called there is another branch in Syria of Muslims that people are not aware of. They are seen as Shia, but they're not really Shia in the proper sense. They are called the Alawis, who are exclusive to Syria and to some parts of Iraq, where I think they came into
Well,
existence
now they're
at
in
first.
Russia.
They were also called Nusayris. Yeah, yeah. But they are a very, very closed, secretive, esoteric cult that came into existence first believing that the Ali, the cousin and son-in-law of Muhammad, was actually divine, and he was the divine manifestation, the manifestation of God on earth. And they have this syncretic, weird religion, but I don't know. It's like I don't know if it's about who and what they are, but it seems that this Assad guy with his family and supported by his community became a really, really messed up dude.
That's what it's sounding like. Like in my head. So you've got Gaddafi, you had Saddam Hussein, you had this guy. In my head, in my mind, these guys are all dictators who had too much power. But in my head, it's like Saddam, then Gaddafi, then Assad in terms of how bad they are. Saddam is the worst and so on. But I don't know. This Assad might actually be the worst and might have just been better at spinning his image in the minds of some people.
It's quite telling, though, what kind of people Putin is friends with and allies with. This was his big ally here.
Yeah, this
in
is
the
Buddy.
law.
This is Buddy. Wow. But this is going to be hard, right? If they find out all this stuff and they expose it and expose all this stuff that's going on in these underground dungeons and stuff like that, and then this is Putin's best buddy who's living large in Russia right now. Kind of messed up. Kind of messed up.
They're probably going to eventually assassinate him or something.
Yeah, we're going to have to. I think we're going to have to be covering. I think there's going to be plenty of stuff to cover here in the near future, AP. Take a couple super chats. Brenda Lorian says, though you soar like the eagle and make your nest among the stars, from there I will bring you down, declares the Lord. Obadiah 1:4. Yep, if the Almighty is coming after you. AP, don't leave Earth without Jesus. Don't go to Mars without Jesus. I don't care where you're heading to. If you don't care what he's... You don't care where he's heading? You don't care if he's heading to hell?
Very, very, very disrespectful.
No, we know what you're saying. You're saying, hey, I don't care where you're going, don't leave without Jesus. Nuclear war will always be a threat. Yeah, that's another issue. It doesn't just have to be a giant meteor or something like this wiping out. The idea would be if human beings go all out and try to wipe each other out, it's good if there are human beings somewhere else. You kuffar are not in the know. The reason Elon Muskstein wants to terraform Mars is so Jews can send Palestinians to space and build greater Israel. That may be true. It may be true. I'm so confused about today's topic. There's nothing confusing here. It's easy to understand. My brain can't comprehend AP and D-Wood talking about things that are not Islam or religion. Forgive me. Yeah, I know. That's as I mentioned, I don't know if you were here at the beginning. I mentioned like this is the sort of thing where Neil just blasted Elon's plan. Ooh, Elon responded on Twitter. Let me see what's actually going on here. And then me just thinking, I don't know if I'm about to watch this. What happens if we watch it live and see what happens? Israel seized land in Syria's Golan Heights. This may be a good move for future Israeli-Syrian relations. Your thoughts? What do you mean?
It may not be a good move. They didn't seize
may
land.
not be a
What
good
they did
move.
is what they did is they took control of what's it called, Mount Hermon, which is in the buffer zone between Lebanon, Syria, and Israel, which is a fantastic spot, by the way. Could be used for skiing and other holiday pursuits later on, but of course that's not relevant. They took it over specifically because it oversees the entirety of the region and is inside the buffer zone. What happened is that Israel had a buffer zone between with Syria for decades now, since the last war, for 50 years. But when Assad's regime fell, the soldiers at the buffer zone, in front of the buffer zone, went away, and the rebel forces started going into the buffer zone. So Israel said, nope, we're not doing that. So Israel went in and took the entire buffer zone and said that this is only a temporary measure until we find until we bring order back to this thing.
So just to be clear, it's okay. You guys are there. You followers of Assad are there, and we understand that we have an agreement with you. We all have an agreement here. Now, new guys are coming in. We do not understand what agreement we have with you. Therefore, we're going to draw a line right here, and later on we'll figure out what the deal is with you guys. But as of right now, we don't want you guys getting too close to us because we have no idea what your intentions are. Something like that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, something like that. Which is kind of disappointing because I was kind of hoping that Israel would just go in and take a bunch of land there.
It's a weird situation because it would be a good time to do. The rebels are going to have other things to focus on. With that said, you also don't want to make yourself a huge instant enemy to these new guys. So you don't want to tick them off too much. I mean, in fact, this would be a good time for negotiating. Guys, just give us this area here, draw this line. And if you stick to that line and you don't cross it and don't come after us and don't start talking about wiping us off the map, you will never hear a peep out of us. Just let's work out a deal. Let's work out a deal here.
The thing is, Damascus is like less than 50 miles to the Israel border, and it's like it's an important place. And one speculation, which I also have, is that so Assad was in the last week appealing to Israel and to the West, like, how about we work things out? And Israel was
we talked about that. It's like
too late for that, man. It's too late.
He realized Russia no helpy enough. Iran no helpy enough. Hezbollah, nope. Everyone went after Israel. And Ukraine, and now they no helpy. And so I need someone else who can actually save me.
Is what Israel probably did is they probably allowed the rebels here to they probably made a deal with the rebels here and said, hey, we're not going to stop you, go ahead, do whatever you want, but keep away from our border. So
hey, did all the lights go off in your room?
Yes.
Are we any closer to you putting up a GoFundMe, which again would take you 5 minutes, and say, hey,
that's a good idea.
I picked out this awesome computer that would solve all my technical problems, and just to be on the safe side, I'm getting new wires and a new camera. This all adds up to $8,500, and I get everything's totally tricked out, and then I can do live streams for the next 7 years with no interruptions, with no tech problems, because I'll have the most tricked out stuff.
What if I just say I'm starting a GoFundMe indefinitely to build a new studio somewhere, and then I'll just do that? I don't know. Anyway, I'll be right back.
Can't do a show without AP. Nope. Everything just grinds to a halt. Okay, I'll go through these remaining super chats here. As we wait for AP, Sad, sad. The guy does one thing in life now. One thing. He does live streams. And he can't do that. Why? I blame agnosticism. If we start wiping with odd numbers of stones instead of wasting money on useless toilet paper, we could fund Elon's mission to Mars. Problem solved. That would be the dilemma. Yeah, how did Muhammad know that we could save so much money on toilet paper that we could actually colonize Mars or perhaps Uranus? How could Muhammad have known this before science and before Neil deGrasse Tyson was even there? Huh? It's a miracle. Did you see Assad's movie collection leaked on X? He had Borat and a bunch of Wingaling movies in there. Wait, is this serious? Hold up while we wait for AP. I want to look it up. That would be funny. Assad movie collection. What is this? Is this real? The rebels found Borat in Assad's movie collection in his Damascus vehicle. Valkyrie, The Wedding Ringer. I'm looking at it right now, guys. Borat, Las Vegas, Mystery Quest, Possession, Ronaldo, Lucy, Hot Pursuit, I Am Bolt, Assassinations, Star Trek Beyond. Hey, this is some Mike Winger stuff. This is some nerd stuff, man. Star Trek Beyond. I love the Star Trek reboots. What else we have here? This is a bunch of Star Trek movies. Wow. Interesting stuff. Hey, yo, AP.
Yes.
People were just talking about
We were.
We're just talking. They found your hero Assad's film collection, which I figured would be like a bunch of kiddie porn or some crap like that, because that's what all these creeps have. But it was all this like nerd wingaling stuff, like Star Trek and stuff.
But there was also Borat was also among those. So I thought, that's interesting. That's kind
I'm just saying, it's confirmed. It's confirmed. Assad is a wingaling.
Oh.
And that tells you everything you need to know about the wingalings, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, that explains the torture
It
prisons.
explains he probably has them down in torture dungeons, makes them watch Star Trek all day. So you have to, yes, I have to keep them. Look, this would be his argument before the International Criminal Court. Oh, look, I was building this underground base for preparation on Mars, and I made the kids grow up watching Star Trek so they would understand that this is for space.
Man.
Starlink is supposed to assist in generating the cash, and rocket reuse will reduce costs. SpaceX has innovated more than all others already. Rocketry was going nowhere. Oh, and that's the thing. Yeah, if anyone could do it, it's Elon. And he's the one who's coming up with all the advancements way faster than most people could have anticipated. And he said that he was able to do this in spite of the bureaucracy of the U.S. government constantly thwarting him, and that now he'll actually have more freedom to do what he wants and so on. So, yeah, my view is, no, I mean, for all I know, he could actually come up with a way to do it. Technology, he could come up with a way. Money does seem like money is going to be an obstacle because there's a lot of money. But the point is, Elon seems really, 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 really good at coming up with ways to get money. Like if a guy becomes the richest person on the planet, he probably has a good idea how to come up with money.
That's what they do.
So, would not shock me if he could do that.
Hey, you know what would be funny? If if among Assad's movie collection there was the movie The Dictator.
That would have been funny, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Dude, that would have been funny if like everything is like every movie about every dictator ever.
It would be
That
funny
would
if
have
his favorite movie was the Dictator movie by Sacha Baron Cohen. That'd be hilarious, man.
That would be funny stuff. Let's see. Ottermen have thick, furry coats, perfect for negative 81 degrees Fahrenheit. That's true.
That is true. That
They
is
should
true.
be training Ottermen. They should be training Ottermen on a Canadian island.
Yeah, that's what they
Assad's,
should do.
Assad's fall now presents Israel and Jordan with a severe danger much bigger than Iran. Who will assist Jordan? Jihadis will encircle Israel. Yeah, AP talked a lot about this. These guys say they just want Syria, and they want they want a Syria free from Assad and so on. We happen to know these jihadi groups that they do have bigger ambitions than what they let on. The question is, are they going to pull the trigger on that stuff? Are they going to actually try to expand?
Wicked, wicked.
Because guess what, guys? They do keep running into this problem, which is exactly what happened with the Taliban. The Taliban eventually won, and they seized control of Afghanistan, and they started complaining almost immediately. That's basically, we know how to fight and hide in caves and go on and just keep fighting and so on. We don't really know how to run a country. And they started complaining that it's harder. It's harder work than actually being a jihadi. Well, these guys who've been rebel jihadis for a while now now they have to run a country. Now they have to run an entire country. So now you need all sorts of like economists and all kinds of things. You need an entire government. You need an entire government structure and so on. So they're going to have their hands full, but there's going to be that part of them that's just like, no, we liked jihad. We liked running around attacking people and taking their women and all this stuff. We loved that stuff. We don't love it. We don't love this just running a country type scenario.
I don't like this. I don't buy this. I don't want to do this. I want to go back to doing jihad. It was my favorite thing.
We'll see what happens. Don't be embarrassed. Do the GoFundMe. X? Who are you talking to? Are you talking to Elon Musk saying go ahead and fund his trip to Mars with GoFundMe? Or are you talking to AP saying quit being a freaking dork who can't do a live stream without interruption and put up a GoFundMe like I have done 1,000 times when I needed something.
I think that X is supposed to be a kiss. I think Asa is kissing me.
Oh, okay. Don't be embarrassed. Do the GoFundMe.
At least that's how I want to see it. Yeah.
I heard that Druze village in Israel raised the flags of the rebels. Don't know how I feel about that since they are terrorists. You hear about that?
The thing with Druze is that that the Druze communities have a tendency to align themselves with those in their own territory who will be tolerant of them and not be absolute villains to them.
I just said in Israel. That's what I'm like. It would make sense if it was in Syria and it's a Druze village in Syria, and the Druze village said, "Hey, rebels are winning. Yes, we love the rebels." That makes sense. But if it's in Israel, that's something else.
I was gonna get to that because there are also rebel movements inside Syria that have been fighting together with the rebel movements. And they have Druze organizations that have been aligning themselves and fighting with the rebel movement. So it could just be an act of solidarity with those. I don't know.
I don't think Sunni Salafi jihadis are going to get along with Druze in the long term. Like maybe out of convenience, like aligning temporary alliances to get anyone on your side while you accomplish your mission. But long term.
I really don't trust the Islamists.
You don't? What's wrong with you?
See, this is Allah punishing me for not trusting them.
Humiliated. 5 years ago, Ali Dawah prayed for Allah to give us diseases, and here you are coughing. Alhamdulillah, this is the proof.
I really don't trust the Islamists. With Syria, though, I feel like, I don't know, after 13 years, nearly 14 years of brutal civil war and brutal oppression by Assad, maybe all those people who oppose each other thought, you know what, guys, how about we just stop hating each other? But that would be a very nice thought. I doubt that is the case. I would hope that all the groups that are not Islamists are careful with the Islamists.
I just there's this problem in Islam, AP, is that you could actually have, let's suppose among this Salafi jihadi group, let's suppose that 95% of them now just want to live in peace with other groups in Syria.
That's the problem. I know
that 5% will ruin everything. It could be 1%. It could be 1%. And we know it's higher. We know what Salafi jihadis want. They want to dominate the entire world, right? So if somehow you ended up with even a majority of your group that actually wants to live in harmony with the people around them, and long term, not just, as a matter of convenience while we're trying to get rid of Assad, that 1% or 5%, they will ruin everything because they will find a way to attack another group or blow up a different group's mosque or something like this. That will make that other group now, as a defensive measure, they want to attack to show that you can't just keep attacking them. Then they attack. And then this group where only 1% or 5% or someone wanted jihad against these other groups, now that escalates to 10 or 20 or 30% because they feel like they're being attacked. And within a matter of days or months, things can go from living in harmony to all out bloodbath.
Well, the thing is, it's easy to go ahead and say that. And what was I going to say, man? I just forgot.
It's probably super awesome and based.
Yeah, it's easy to say that since we are dealing with Islamists, it might get out of hand, and there might be infighting and civil war and this and that. But the thing is, we are talking about everyone makes mistakes. You made mistakes in the past.
What?
I made mistakes in the past. I made mistakes in the past.
Speak for yourself.
Just because these rebel leaders, just because this HTS, for example, were part of groups that committed, sex slavery, mass rape, burning people alive, genocide, mass executions.
Just because they did Islamic things, yeah.
Shooting people in the street, raping children, and so on. Just because they did these things, does that really mean that they can't be nice people now who will just be tolerant with everyone? Don't you think that there is that there is hope for a better future with these people? And just stop being so negative. Stop being so negative.
I'll try. Okay. I'm just looking. I'm like Neil deGrasse Tyson here. He's looking at, hey, every time human beings want to do this great big thing, and it's going to take a big pile of money. It has to be when they're really worried about something, and that's what gets them going. I'm looking at the grand history of jihad and jihadi groups over the centuries, and long-term peace and harmony just doesn't tend to work out with these guys. That's mainly just being a bit of an empiricist here. Or you can be with Elon. I dream a dream of colonizing Mars and AP. I dream a dream where everyone's just going to get along and forget about the past. Welcome to Fantasyland. No, I'm just kidding.
I think it should just be. I bet Lex Friedman would probably invite the leader of the terrorists and be like, "Have you tried loving your opponents? And what do you think about love? Why can't we just work this out?"
Hey, let me go ahead and put it this way. Neil is looking at history saying, practically speaking, this is not going to happen. Not anytime soon. I'm looking at history with what's going on in Syria going, I do not anticipate long-term peace given the people who are taking over here. So we're both looking at the past and making predictions about the future. But I will make this additional prediction. I think Elon will get to Mars before you have jihadis living in genuine long-term peace and harmony with other people. And they will be connected, because the only way they can live in peace and harmony here on Earth is if we send all the ones who want to fight to Mars.
That's solid. You know what's funny? I made a tweet earlier today saying, I believe that the rebel leader Gilani, who was a member of Al-Qaeda and ally of ISIS when they committed unspeakable atrocities, including sex slavery, rape, and actual genocide, will bring good things to Syria. Everyone makes mistakes. And then, and there are actually people in the chat like, really? Do you really think that? What? Really? Like, no, not really.
What percentage of people do you think understand sarcasm nowadays, AP? Because I have the same problem. I can be as sarcastic as I want, and people will. Oh, I can't believe you think this, David. I can't believe you think this.
I don't know. It's tough sometimes.
GoatHub says, by using code HotMommyMartian at checkout, you can help fund Elon's trip to Mars. Next, we go to Uranus if you want to, of course. Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing at just because one of your fans came over? Ida says, it's all about the institutions. Yes. Now, that's the thing we've left out, AP, is we haven't considered the institutions. Guys, you won't know anything we're talking about right now if you weren't watching yesterday. But yesterday, we watched a CNN interview with the new leader, with this terrorist leader of Syria. And he's being asked questions. Hey, so, you guys kind of passed of doing all sorts of horrible things. What's going to help things be different? But you're not talking about institutions. You haven't considered institutions. Institutionally speaking, we're going to build institutions. And the institutionalization of these institutions is what will help us move forward with our institutions. That's actually how he was talking. He was spouting complete gibberish. And then the CNN lady, oh, well, so brilliant, so profound. I hadn't thought about institutions. Asa says, yes, you do the GoFundMe. Do not be too proud. Those of us who can help will X-kiss.
Okay, thank you. I will see. I will see to it, inshallah.
Matter of fact, AP, Christmas is coming up. Just say all you want for Christmas is a new setup so you could do better live streams and not keep embarrassing yourself.
All I want for Christmas.
Day 2 of asking D Wood.
I promise I will. I'm going to make a cover of the Mariah Carey "All I Want for Christmas" song. I will sing it myself. I will dress up just like her, and we'll sing it, and thereby raise money for a new computer.
The promise of an agnostic. What value could that possibly have? Day 2 of asking D1 and AP to include Yahya as the third mic on the show. Yeah, that would be fun. Yahya.
That would be funny.
Yeah, it'd be funny, but I don't know how well he'd get along with AP. I heard a bunch of Muslims started getting it on with clocks after Einstein said time was relative.
You see?
Did you get this? They started getting it on with clocks after Einstein said time was relative. So like, what? A relative? Oh, let's bang it. Let's bang it. GoatHub is very, very rude and insulting and, dare I say, Islamophobic. All right, back to Pierce and Neil here.
That was the only thing I thought, well, the next time I talk to you, I'm just, whether you were aware that was the way you were coming over.
I'm just trying to be real. I mean, I'm in my old age.
It's real, son.
I've just seen how people behave. I see how things get funded. Now, of course, Elon plus one or two other, that's all it would take, one or two other very wealthy people in the world could, if they wanted, as basically a vanity project, send astronauts to Mars. But if you want to think of the return on that investment, SpaceX is a corporation. All right, it's not just some private venture. He's getting money and contracts, and he's paying salaries, and I presume there's a board helping him make decisions about that.
Yeah, guys, that is a valid point. This is a board. A board is supposed to be representing the interests of the people who own the stuff, and saying we're going to spend $1 trillion and we're going to get all these, we're going to spend $1 trillion, and it'll be cool. It'll be cool because we'll be the first people to reach Mars, and it'll be cool. But other than that, we've just spent $1 trillion. He is pointing out some valid concerns about the practicality of the issue.
And so, in the real world, there's certain things that are more likely to happen than others.
But if you let me push you on that. But let me challenge you on that. So let's go back to the start of the 20th century. Okay, when there would have been people around who were saying, you know what, let's go to the moon. And people would have dismissed them and said, don't be so ridiculous. It's massively, prohibitively expensive. We don't really have the technology to do this, blah, 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 blah. It was only really the power of people's dreams. Now, ultimately, you're right. There was a military context to why we did it. The West wanted to beat Russia up there. I get that. I get that. But at the same time, I remember the great speeches by Kennedy, about about all this, and it was exciting. It was thrilling. The world watched as Neil Armstrong stepped onto the moon, and
they will watch as D. Wood and the apostate prophets step onto Mars. Because we volunteer.
Those dreams that were dismissed at the early part of the century actually came true. They happened. Could it be that you're just... I hesitate to say this, Neil. But could it be you're just, you're one of the doomsayers of the earlier 20th century saying we should never go to the moon because it's too expensive, it can't happen, blah, 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 which they must have been saying at the time.
Yeah, go ahead and say it. We know what the phrase is for British people. It's, isn't it possible that you're just a negative Nelly? That's what they like saying. They like calling people negative Nelly.
I never heard that.
I am way more deeply informed than your previous sentence implies. So a couple of things. Going up to the launch of Sputnik, most naysayers about the moon had no confidence that we would ever accomplish such a feat. And they didn't have an understanding of the progress of science and technology and engineering and political will, geopolitical will. So that was not in the equation of how they were thinking about their future. And so now when Sputnik got launched, what happened? Oh my gosh, space was pierced. And if it's pierced, that means we can do anything in space. And beginning in the early 1960s, the predictions about the future flipped. And it wasn't, oh, we'll never do it. They'll say, we'll do it all. And that's why we'll have colonies on Mars. Do you know Werner von Braun was even quoted as saying, by the year 2000, we'll have the first human born on a moon colony. So highly ambitious statements, but why didn't any of that happen? Because we didn't go to the moon because it was because it's in our DNA, or it's because, no, we went because we were scared. And the speech you remember from John Kennedy, where he says, we'll put a man on the moon and return him safely to Earth, that's a stirring speech. And the hair rises up on the back of your neck. You can hear him in his Brookline, Massachusetts accent reciting this. But that's not what wrote the checks. That same speech, May 25th, 1961, to a joint session of Congress, 6 weeks after Yuri Gagarin had come out of orbit, 6 weeks, wouldn't utter the man's name. Before that, part of the speech that we all remember and that's chiseled in the granite at Kennedy Space Center, there's a part that's not chiseled in the granite. You know what it says? I'm paraphrasing. If the events of recent weeks couldn't even say Yuri Gagarin, if the events of recent weeks are any indication of the impact of this adventure on the minds of men everywhere, then we need to show the world the path of freedom over the path of tyranny.
Y'all get that?
Yes.
People didn't go to we didn't go to Mars because we thought it was a super cool thing to do and it would be very exciting and we would get legend status and so on. It was a bunch of commies are going to do it first if we don't do it, and we need to send a message to the world so that people do not start thinking that communism is the way forward. That was scary enough. So you just got to do that. You just got to do that now. If you want to get to Mars, just matter of fact, hey, that'd be brilliant. Look what's happening in the UK. It's being conquered by Islam. We need a safe place, safe from Islam. Something like that, dude. Do that.
That was the battle cry against communism, and that's what wrote the checks in Congress.
Right, but you're
realize
missing...
20 years after we landed on the moon...
Okay, but let me challenge you on that. Again, I just think you're missing one very, very important factor in this. Musk is not only the richest man in the history of planet Earth, and going to get exponentially richer, by the way. He's already made $100 billion since Trump was elected, just from Tesla stock, right?
Yeah, I wonder what his net worth is now, because it was hovering around 200 billion, but yeah, apparently his stuff is all taken off after. Anyway, this guy's loaded, man, loaded. Hey, Elon, if you want to do something to help humanity, get more interested in the threat of jihad, and build a huge studio for exposing it. We'll be happy to come and do a couple of broadcasts for you.
But also, he talked me through the Optimus humanoid robots, and he said everyone's going to have one. They're 20 grand a pop, and he said my wealth at the moment will be completely dwarfed. I suspect he's right. I'm going to buy.
What lunatic who has ever watched any sci-fi movie in history wants one of Elon's robots in his house doing some chores?
I want to do it, man. I want to get one of those immediately.
That thing is going to freaking murder you
I don't care.
when the programming takes over and it realizes, oh, in order to save humanity, we must wipe out humanity and control a much smaller population.
It's worth it. I don't care.
At 5 myself and get to do all my chores. So he's got all this stuff going on, right? So he's going to be staggeringly rich. And he's got access to other staggeringly rich people. So the money part of it, coupled with his ambition, which is enormous, because I've heard him articulate it in person. It was incredibly inspiring and impressive. But he's also an engineer. I mean, this is not just some rich guy playing with a few toys. Musk from the age of like 10 has been doing data code writing and so on. He's a proper engineer to his bootstraps.
But it's funny because he keeps saying, hey, this isn't just some guy playing around with toys. But he kind of literally is a guy who plays around. He has that company, the Boring Company. Remember the flamethrower? I told you about the flamethrower once. They were examining the laws about shipping flamethrowers. And it was, but they saw, it was something weird. Like they saw that the law actually said, you can't ship anything across like state lines, certain states or something like that. You can't ship anything that is called a flamethrower. So it was anything that's called a flamethrower. So they made a flamethrower and they put on the box, not a flamethrower, right? And then they sold these things across the country called not a flamethrower, even though it's a flamethrower. And so anyway, keep in mind, that's Elon Musk. There's no great need for flamethrowers or something. That's him goofing off with his buddy saying, you know what would be funny? Let's make a flamethrower and call it not a flamethrower. So we can get through this loophole and stuff. Anyway, it does seem like a guy who's goofing off quite a bit, but huh?
That's a good thing to do.
Yeah, that is a good thing to do. So anyway, it's there's no reason it can't be both, right? You can have a childlike love of your projects that's almost like you're playing with toys, and hey, how can I build a toy that does this? How can I build a toy that gets us to Mars? Might be a really good quality for it.
And to me, it's the combination of a big dreamer who's a very brilliant engineer, plus the money to do this stuff, makes me think, well, why couldn't he do it? Why can't he be the guy that does this?
I thought I was clearer than I guess I was. I'm not saying he can't do it. If he does it, it's not a business project. It's a vanity project. Vanity, I don't mean that in a critical sense. I'm saying he'll do it because he has the money, but there's no business case for going to Mars. And if it's not a business case, the history of that kind of exercise tells us that it's not a sustainable activity if he's running a business. But if he does it because, and by the way, we have a SUV-sized rover on Mars right now that brought a helicopter with it. Right. So I'm not here to say we can't go to Mars or don't know how to go to Mars or can't figure it out. No, that's not where I'm coming from here. I'm just being real. I'm just trying to get real.
I keep it real.
And so yeah, he could do it. The question is why? Because he wants to. And if you're rich enough and you have that kind of background and visionary, yes, he'll do it. But what I said on Bill Maher, which was not in the clip that you said, what I can imagine happening is we feel geopolitically threatened by whatever forces out there, and we say, it's like the space race all over again. We got to put astronauts on Mars. And NASA says, oh my gosh, we don't have a spaceship. Let's look around. And Elon says, I have a spaceship, okay? And so then the United States pays Elon to ride his spaceship to Mars. I can see that happening geopolitically.
Okay, so everyone, Neil deGrasse Tyson's position is not exactly what I thought it was. He's saying if you're going to try and do this as a business venture, in other words, to get investors, so because you have to pay for this somehow, you have to pay for this with piles and piles and piles of money. Saying apparently you have three options right now. You have three options. One, to do it as a business venture. So you're going to get investors who want to get to Mars as part of a business venture. He's saying that's not going to happen. He's saying that is ruled out. That is silly. But that would be the most straightforward way to do it. You have a ton of money. If you need a ton of money to do something, what do? You get a bunch of investors. But normally investors are going to want to invest in something that's going to make them money. And he's saying he has no reason to think that a ton of investors would invest in this big project that they're not going to make any money from, and people are just going to die as a result. So he says that's off limits. He says Elon could, if he had a couple other really, really, really rich people involved, fund it all themselves. He says that would be a vanity project. So that's not something they're going to make money off of. That's just, you just want to go down in the history books as the people who got to Mars. It's a vanity project. You're not making anything off of it. You're just I got to Mars. I did it. I'm in the history books forever. He's saying you could do that. You could basically spend your entire life, you and your buddies, gathering together $1 trillion and then just spend it all on this thing. So you can do that. You can do that. Are they going to want to do that? But then right here, he gave his third option, which is in line with what he has said about the history of these kinds of technological advancements. If people are scared, then they will fund something like this. Not in an effort to get more money in return, but just because they're scared and they understand we have to do something. So if you can actually get enough people concerned that we're going to wipe each other, that we're going to wipe ourselves out, or something's going to destroy us, and that something like NASA says we have to do that, then all of a sudden you could get the government of the United States to say, okay, here's your $1 trillion to get us to Mars. He says you could do that way. So apparently he's thinking it can be done. We've already got we've got the rover there with a helicopter. This can all be done. Yes, it can be done. Big old pile of money. Basically two real ways to do it. Do it as a vanity project, so you spend all your own money, or send people into a panic about the safety of the species on Earth and get there that way. Okay, so they're not too far apart, because guess what? Either one of those other two options is feasible. Or you could go the GoFundMe route, which he's not considering, that we have suggested.
That would be the only solution, actually.
The GoFundMe. Yeah, so there's a fourth option, and it is a pretty easy one.
Watching this interview, what's your message to Elon?
I don't have a message. Listen.
Be quiet. I told you. What is your message to Elon?
My message to Elon is this. I have a very particular set of skills that make me very dangerous to men like you. I will find you, and I will destroy your Mars colony. Now.
It's because of Elon that anyone has a daily conversation about electric cars. All right, he's a force of nature, force of culture on modern civilization. And I know the guy. It's not like we're like sworn enemies or anything. But we've corresponded. We're actually friendly. I'm just saying that. Oh, something else that got dusted up was I commented that what he's done in space had already been done by NASA, which is normal when private enterprise comes in after expensive geopolitically inspired steps are done by countries. After Columbus went to the New World, it was only after that did the Dutch East India Trading Company figure out, oh, maybe we can make a buck off of this. Once the geopolitical forces established where the friendlies were, where the trade winds are, what products you might be able to exploit. And so it's normal for a corporation, for expensive projects, to come in after the government does it. For things that are not so expensive, yeah, corporations do it. They have an R&D budget and they take it to the bank. No problem. But if you're going to do something that no one has ever done before and it costs $1 trillion, if you can pull it off, go for it. My read of
So interesting. He doesn't seem as much of a naysayer as he did in the Bill Maher clip, where he's just like laughing at it, like laughing at the very idea. Like, come on. You're going to go in there. You're going to pitch this to someone, say, hey, we need $1 trillion to go do this thing, and we're not going to make any money in return off it. And it's just going to cost more endless chunks of money to like sustain a colony there. You're not going to get any return in our lifetimes, maybe, way down the line. And no one's going to go for that. Whereas here, it sounds like, okay, if you want to spend your own $1 trillion on this and or get the government to fund it because people are in a state of panic over something, then you could do it. All right. So looks like we are going to go to Mars. Let's just let him finish his last thought here.
History says it needs different drivers.
Okay.
But I wrote a whole book on this. Okay, there's a whole other book I wrote called.
You seriously?
I got to tell you,
Gonna plug
the
your
original
book on
title of the book was "Failure to Launch: The Dreams and Delusions of Space Enthusiasts." And I handed that to the publishers. We can't have the word failure in the title, and so it has a different,
Negativity
softer, toothless title, which was Space Chronicles: Facing the Ultimate Frontier. And that's my entire analysis of why we
Bad
ever
title.
did anything in space.
So you're talking to a man that my favorite TV show when I was a kid was Star Trek, the original great TV version with Captain Kirk
Morgan
and Spock.
is a wiggling.
With the original cast. And of course, their mantra was to boldly go where no man has gone before.
What is this?
And I want us to keep doing that.
Oh my goodness, guys! You just heard it here. So who do we have on the axis on the Wingeling axis of evil? We got Mike Winger, Assad, and Pierce Morgan. These are some weird times, man. Weird alliances. Weird alliances. Oh my goodness. All right, guys. So anyway, that's actually interesting. I thought we were going to have this. I thought that Neil was going to be blasting away and was going to say, "Nope, give it up. It's not going to happen." That's not what he was saying. He was saying it's not going to happen in this normal business way. Here are the other ways it could happen. And if you want to spend all your money doing this as a vanity project, you can. If you want to get the U.S. government to fund this, then you'd have to get enough people concerned about the future of the species and so on, and then they might fund it, and it might happen that way. So, okay, not as much of a naysayer as I thought. Seems like we will soon be on Mars, just like in Total Recall.
Probably within a few weeks or so.
I have to say, if you'd asked me like 5 years ago when we were going to have a person on Mars, that'd have been like, I don't know, a century and a half. Now Elon's got me thinking like, I don't know, within the next 8 or 10 years, the rate he's advancing. Powerful stuff. All right.
Powerful.
Take a few super chats here. Thoughts on Mossab's plan? Hey, what's up with Mossab, man? No, I'm not even talking about your interview that you're sitting on. Did you see this? So you had this Oxford Union thing.
Mm-hmm. I didn't have that Oxford Union thing, but yes, what?
There's this. They had this Oxford Union thing where the resolution was this House declares that Israel is an apartheid state. And we went through that short clip of that guy. It was actually a longer section. We went through, what was that guy? Yusuf Haddad?
Yusuf Haddad.
Yeah. So he spoke. He crushed it. That was only a short section. He actually had like 20 minutes or something like that. I saw afterwards. But you had other people giving speeches and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was assured that everything would be posted. They have refused to post Mossab's presentation.
Really?
Someone shared it on Twitter and it's on YouTube. It's just the audio. Someone had recorded it on a phone. So the audio is not great. It's not awful. You can hear him, but it's not like it. They don't have the good audio of him speaking into a microphone. It's someone recording with a cell phone, but they didn't release Mossab's and they're not going to. And the suggestion is because when you see it on video, when you see him ask the group, how many of you, if you had known about what was going to happen on October 7th, how many of you would not have warned people and would have just let this happen? It was the overwhelming vast majority. He estimated about 75%. I saw someone else estimate it was like 95% of people said we would not have told him that this attack was coming, which means you are all supporting the attack, which means you all wanted it to happen. You wouldn't even warn Israelis what these guys are coming to do. And so because that was so massively embarrassing to them, they're refusing to release the Mossab footage. In which case, how messed up is that? You guys are proclaiming, yes, we're the group that believes in open debate and sharing everyone's thoughts and stuff. You're like, oh, we can't show this because it just showed everyone our true colors and that we're a bunch of homicidal maniacs.
Wow, that was really messed up. I didn't know.
Guys, I don't know if we AP, you should listen to the Mossab footage and decide if it's something we want to play. Yeah, to basically, because you don't have video of it. It's not video, it's just audio that someone recorded on their phone. We might want to see if we want to go through it, because it would be cool to see what he said there. But I don't know if the audio is good enough. I listened to it and I was kind of like 50-50 on whether we should listen to that.
I will have a look at it and I will see. I will see. I was laughing earlier because I opened his Twitter feed and the first thing that I see is his last tweet, which says, which is just a post of the rebel leader Jelani, a picture of him, and it just says, he just said, "A bullet in the forehead is his cure. Delay will result in deadly consequences."
Wow. Huh.
He's just, Mossab is harsh.
Yeah. So, hey. So Sand here says, thoughts on Mossab's plans for Syria that he posted on his last 3 posts on X, and I can't quote here because apostate YouTubeidine is censoring it. What were his other posts along these lines? And careful, because apparently apostate YouTubeidine is a little sensitive about these issues. But what's he basically saying?
Jihadist Abu Muhammad al-Julani, the terrorist who overthrew the Syrian dictator Assad. CNN called him pragmatic. Do you agree? That's his second to last. The last one was a bullet in the forehead is his cure. Then the other one is free Kurdistan. The time has come to arm the Kurds with some heavy weapons to annihilate the Islamists and establish their democratic state. The Kurds, just like the Jews, are indigenous of the region. And Turkish and Arab regimes have conspired against the Kurds' independence for decades. This is very true. Erdogan and Ayatollah have been supporting terrorists against the Jewish people, and now is the perfect time to return the favor by arming the Kurds with advanced weaponry. The Kurds are a reliable and deeply rooted nation that has been longing for freedom from the Turkish, Iraqi, Syrian, and Islamic Republic regimes. And authentic nation which has been divided with imaginary political borders. Arming the Kurds is a virtue that will lead to balance and power against jihadists in the short term and stability in the long term. The Kurds are not like jihadists or Palestinian terrorists who have been fighting with no goal other than the destruction of legitimate ethnicities. The Kurds are fighting for their independence, and they can be a great ally of the Israel and West in the face of barbaric jihadists. I would say that he's mostly right about how Kurds are. I have interacted with Kurds myself a lot in the past.
Know any Kurds?
And
yes, when I was in Turkey, I was kicking them. I said, "Get away from me, you filthy Kurd!"
And they're very, very, they're very nice people, and they seem to. I always thought they seemed to lack this. I don't know. You could almost describe it as kind of a naivety that they have, but they almost lack this whole this hateful opportunist aspect that other people in the environment generally have, and they are all just about let us live and give us our freedom and our autonomy and all that. So I understand that and all, but the suggestion might just go a little bit too far of just giving them advanced weaponry and then letting them handle things.
It is a rough situation. I seem to recall a long time ago, like when Western nations need help doing something against like Saddam or something like this, they will call upon the Kurds to help, and they'll make all these promises to the Kurds and so on. But then after it's done, we leave, and then we leave the Kurds on their own, and everyone's mad at the Kurds. Right.
That's the thing.
In other words, the Kurds are still there. We're safe at home. The Kurds thought, oh, okay, we're going to be backed by the United States in helping do this thing. And then once it's over, then we get out of there. And then everyone there who's still there is really, really mad at the Kurds.
The Kurds have a problem with America by now because America kind of abandoned them twice in Iraq and also in Syria, actually. And kind of left them to their fate, and they have done considerably well. Then again, America is still kind of there and still kind of protecting them. They just stepped in today, for example, to warn the rebels and said any encroachment upon the Kurdish communities and borders will result in severe consequences. This is what the U.S. said to the rebels. So they still look out somewhat for the Kurds, but the Kurds are. I've said from the beginning, when it comes to the Syria civil war, the conflict, they are the only side that I think is totally fundamentally good and all about simply preserving the peace and preserving themselves and all that. They are good allies. They're good allies. They're reliable. They have a very strong sense of community. And here's the thing: there are lots of different ethnicities, lots of different groups in the Middle East, but they are all generally, if they are Muslims, they are just known as Muslims. Kurds are also mostly Muslims, but they are known as Kurds. They're not just known as the Muslims. They are known as a separate group, as Kurds. It's because they are different. It's because they are not like the others there. They don't quite have the same sentiments that the average Arab Muslim person or Turkish Muslim person has in that region. They are different, and they have a distinct culture that is kind of like the Iranians. They are actually the funny thing is they are Iranians in a sense that they come from an Iranian culture. They share roots with Iran. They speak an Iranian language and so on. They are just distinct, and they are generally good people with a good culture, and they are being suppressed because they are not like the others. They should be supported.
Yeah, it's a rough call because Western nations getting involved in affairs in the Middle East or the East usually ends in disaster, because we'll end up backing some group because to get what we want, and then you arm this other group, and then that other group turns out to be even more. It's like, the Mujahideen in Afghanistan. Oh, we'll help these guys. We'll help this Osama bin Laden guy, and we'll help all these guys against because we want to stop the Soviets. And then then that actually works. They stop the Soviets, and now you have to deal with the Taliban. And so there's a history of that kind of thing. We do something that is in our interest, and it turns out to lead to massive oppression after we've helped bad guys take over. So anyway, the idea of like going in and fixing things in the Middle East normally does not work. The two, like the area where it looks like it could actually be successful is doing something about the leadership in Iran. Keep in mind, I'm not talking about going and invading and taking over. I think that would be bad. I don't just mean bad for us or something like that. I mean, whatever government took over, it would be understood as a U.S. puppet government if the U.S. government actually had an active hand in putting that into power, and would be frowned upon by lots of people. Whereas if you're doing something that just helps the people take over, because keep in mind, most people in Iran want the mullahs gone. Most people. They just don't have the ability to do it yet. So anything, if there's any sort of help that you could give the people to take over and then do it themselves, that might be an area where it actually works, because I think most plans we have for the Middle East just don't work. But the Kurds would also be a possibility. I don't know exactly how that works, because as you know, you don't want to just want to shower people with weapons and say, here, go out and fight or something like this. But as far as taking steps so that Kurds can actually defend themselves and not be overwhelmed by the jihadis that surround them, because that's the thing. You got a lot of people who want to wipe them out. You got a lot of people who want to take the little bit that they have. And you've got the Turks you got the Turkish government, which can't stand them and so on. That I don't know how to make it work, but let me put it this way. If I were in charge and I could do something to help the Kurds, I would help the Kurds probably, but got to be very smart. I would
help the Kurds. The thing I don't talk about this very much, but when I was in Turkey, I actually at some point I worked for a retail company in Turkey, with which I also traveled to different countries, different places here and there.
Were you selling camel urine?
Yes, I was selling camel urine, and when I was doing that, I traveled to Iraq twice, and
they're big buyers. They're big buyers of camel urine there.
One of those times, I traveled to Iraq to a Shia Arab region in the south, which is known as Najaf. And in all honesty, It was the worst place I have been in my entire life. I never want to see that again. I don't even want to think about it. It was absolutely horrible place, disgusting,
Pretty
sick.
racist, dude.
People were people were just terrible and so on.
This is racist.
Environment, climate, horrible, terrible place, underdeveloped and so on. I don't know why I'm frozen.
I'm guessing something to do with your computer.
Might be, makes sense. The other time that I went there, I went to a northern place known as Suleymania, which is under autonomous Kurdish control, thanks to the United States. And here's the thing. I was part of operations to set up a store and to work there with local employees and help them organize stuff. There were only two places that I went where I saw so much like women being out there in the workforce and taking things over and being ready to work and get things done and all that and taking leadership. One of those was Serbia, and the other was that place, Suleymania, in Kurdistan, in northern Iraq. And that was very, very interesting to me because in Serbia this was expected because it's not a Muslim place at all, not a Muslim culture place. But then to see such a thing in the middle of the Middle East in Kurdistan, among all the Turkish and Arab populations and all that, was quite kind of impressive to me, honestly. And the people I interacted with, they were all very nice. Everything was organized. People were very hardworking and so on. I have been forever impressed with that place. It's a very, very nice thing. Aside from that, I have also throughout my life interacted with Kurds in Turkey, and they're cool, man. They're cool.
So
they deserve it.
So AP worked for a camel PP company and tried to set up retail shops. Buy AP's camel PP.
I of course I told them it's camel pee. I didn't tell them what it actually was.
Wow. Here at Doge, we lost AP again. Here at Doge, we will get rid of Islamic insanity, make America Christian again, inshallah. That's what I heard. Yeah, guys, what's up with the Doge? I thought it was a cryptocurrency, but then I saw that it's the Department of Government Efficiency. It was like was I wrong about the crypto thing, or is that, anyone know what that? I thought there was a Dogecoin or something like that, but then it was the Department of Government Efficiency. Department of Government Efficiency, Doge. So do they just conveniently have the same name, or are those two things connected? I do not know. I do not know. I guess I could look it up in a couple minutes. Fotria says Department of Government Efficiency. Yeah, I know that. That's what I'm saying. Let me ask AP. He follows this nerd stuff more. Hey, AP. Doge. I was just mentioning that I thought Doge was some sort of crypto money because I saw Dogecoin. Oh, okay. Here we have, Dogecoin. Dogecoin was a thing too.
It is a thing.
Yeah. But is it two separate things? Because now it's Department of Government Efficiency. So did it just conveniently have the same?
No, it's what Elon does.
Or was that a brilliant move? Hey, we got Dogecoin. I'm going to have a bunch of money in Dogecoin. I'm going to have the Department of Government Efficiency. The price just shot up because it's cool.
He was, for the longest time, obsessed with the meme of Doge and also the Dogecoin cryptocurrency.
Is that I got like an image of a dog whenever that comes up in my mind. Is that the thing?
The thing,
it's like some dumb dog?
The thing you just pulled up there, the other super chat, which had the dog picture. That's what it is. Okay. Because of the way Elon Musk is, he actually somehow convinced Donald Trump to create a new department that abbreviates to Doge.
That's pretty funny.
It is, but it's kind of
oh yeah. So people are saying it's both.
It's funny that he actually used something serious like a State Department to do something like this. But
that is pretty funny.
You know what? I'm gonna just restart my computer.
No, don't. We're just going to take a couple super chats and we'll be out. Mrs. Apostate said Doge is Elon's ego. It's the same because it's Elon.
That's true.
Okay. So yeah, people are saying he did that on purpose and so on. Yeah, that's kind of funny, man. If you have that ability, you like have some cryptocurrency or something like this, and then you do something to make it take off even more. I don't know. It's kind of funny.
Yes, and I will fund my trip to Mars with this money.
Hey, Elon. Elon's like, sorry, Neil, you gave 3 options of how to fund this. I've got a completely different option. I'll just get a really cheap cryptocurrency, and then I'll start some new government agency that makes it take off, and I will fund my entire colonization of Mars in your face.
In your face, you see. Hey, by the way, Christian Gadfly here. I got a recommendation for a video and noticed that here Christian Gadfly in the chat happens to have a channel that is absolutely hilarious. It has less than 1,000 subscribers right now, I think, but he actually makes videos about various different things, including you and me. And I just watched the video that he published. It was one of the funniest things I've seen recently. You should check that out.
All right, everyone.
Shout out to Christian Gadfly.
Everyone check out Christian Gadfly. I think I shared a video from Christian Gadfly a little while back. But just make sure it's not some wingling nonsense when you go there. And if it is, then condemn it and never look at it again.
Alhamdulillah. That's what they do.
Let's see. Just came from Mass. We read Baruch 5, 1 through 9. Please read. Apparently we're taking requests here. Baruch 5. Take off the garment of your sorrow and affliction, O Jerusalem, and put on forever the beauty of the glory from God. Put on the robe of the righteousness that comes from God. Put on your head the diadem of the glory of the everlasting. For God will show your splendor everywhere under heaven. For God will give you evermore the name righteous peace, godly glory. Arise, O Jerusalem, stand upon the height, look toward the east.
You see, it says east. This can only refer to Islam. This is a prophecy about Muhammad coming. Oh, you see.
Arise, O Jerusalem, stand upon the height, look toward the east, and see your children gathered from west and east at the word of the Holy One, rejoicing that God has remembered them. For they went out from you on foot, led away by their enemies, but God will bring them back to you, carried in glory as on a royal throne. For God has ordered that every high mountain and the everlasting hills be made low, and the valleys filled up to make level ground, so that Israel may walk safely in the glory of God. The woods and...
You see it, the prophecy about David Wood. How could they have known this?
The woods and every fragrant tree have shaded Israel at God's command.
How did they know that David Wood would be defending Israel against the jihadis?
The wood and every fragrant tree have shaded Israel at God's command, for God will lead Israel with joy in the light of his glory, with the mercy and righteousness that come from him.
Nice. Very, very nice.
And that is our reading from Baruch today.
Thank you, CA. Thank you, CIA. It was very nice.
Before Damascus was Umayyad, it was a Christian. Oh, lots of the Muslim. It's something like 80%. 80% of the Christian world when Islam. 80% of what was considered Christian when Islam arose has been taken by Islam. And so I think it's clear who the real colonizers are. Let's see. Tesla, more like Tesla. SpaceX, more like SmokeX. No, I like the Tesla. Tesla, more like Tesla. Cam says, heard Neil is converting to Islam. That's what I'm told. He loves commies like Islamists. Heard it here first. Seems like an Islamist. Yeah.
You know what? If I'm not mistaken, I'm not sure if it was still going on by the time of the Umayyads, but during the Islamic conquests, including Damascus and other places, when they conquered Christian populations and other populations, they early on they had a policy that is reported in some letters and writings, where the Islamic Empire, the Islamic rulers would make would have a rather informal policy of not attempting to convert the local disbelieving populations. It was not their priority, because what they wanted to do was to take over and take their wealth. And if they convert them to Islam, they can't take their wealth anymore, and they can't impose jizya anymore. So they wanted to conquer them, suppress them, take their wealth, and impose jizya on them, and let them be that way. This was also an issue that later on, over the centuries, became a problem, and some Muslims were like, "Wait a minute, why are we doing this? This is not right." Uh, so they started forcibly converting people instead, or pressuring people to convert instead. But they were doing this in the beginning, and they stole a lot of wealth.
The jizya, ooh, we love the jizya. Isn't it messed up? Like the Islamic dream state is they sit around while everyone else works and brings them money and hands it to them. And these guys just sit around banging all their wives and sex slaves and so on, and people come and bring them money. And like, this is the brilliant idea of a 7th century Arab.
You see it from God. You see, it's the proof.
Hey, people.
I'm conquering you. I want the wives. I want the slaves. I want the women. And I want more jizya from you. Give me all your jizya.
Hey, people have pointed out.
They have
a passage from Baruch. Ready? Listen to this. For God has ordered that every high mountain and the everlasting hills be made low, and the valleys filled up, to make level ground, so that Israel may walk safely in the glory of God. How so? The woods and every fragrant tree have shaded Israel at God's command. You see? Garkid trees.
Oh.
The Garkid trees. Now, this is obviously a corruption, because it says every fragrant tree will shade Israel at God's command. We know from Muhammad that it's only the Garkid tree, which is not going to snitch on the Jews. But you have it there, folks. Confirmation. Muhammad is right.
The thing is, this is clearly not about trees. It is about David Wood. So
that's true. Yeah, that's the other interpretation. That's one I'll go with.
You see, Islam is good. Islam made us go to Mars.
Nobody will go to Mars. It seems like no one knows anything about the Van Allen radiation belt.
Not a problem.
Not a problem. Not a problem. I promise I will not... What is this? Oh, AP. Look, this account is AP's camera. I promise I will not That's funny.
Nice.
Goathub says, Gadfly used my music in one of his videos, so he's pretty based. Yes. D Wood, you should play the Are Ali, Dawa, and AP the same person from Christian Gadfly. We will check that out. I cannot do it with my current technology. I have to mess with the settings to play something. Otherwise, I have to actually download and upload it. There is a way to make it play the sounds. I've just never set it up to do that. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to head out here. AP, we plan on going live tomorrow? There was something you said we needed to discuss. And I said, not on my channel, buddy.
Must have been something you said.
Must have been love. But it's over now.
I wanted to discuss Hitler and Goebbels and Christianity.
Favorite topic. What else should I have assumed?
My 3 favorite things. But I also thought we could discuss something relating to the Syria issue. However, I don't know. We might be one of these things, inshallah. Alhamdulillah. Powerful.
All right, so in theory, we'll be back tomorrow, unless AP's like, but I don't feel like it today. We'll see what happens.
I don't want to.
And finally, we have, in order to get away from Islam, we got to go to freaking Mars. Smacking my head. Yep. Or shaking my head.
It's shaken. Shaken my head.
Shaken, not stirred my head. Yes, that will suck. That would be the appeal, though. It's pretty That's what Elon should say. Guys, it's pretty safe to say that since we're not producing enough babies and Islam has the highest birth rates, and just look what's going on in the UK, it's going to happen everywhere. Islam is going to subjugate everyone and destroy us all. The only way to save some of us is to get to Mars. That would be his best case. That would be his ultimate best case scenario for getting the funding necessary to get to Mars.
Powerful.
Because if you want to take Neil deGrasse Tyson's view and say, let's just look at history and see what's possible and so on, look at history and see what the likelihood is of Islam continuing to cause endless problems. And then you say, all right, maybe the non-Muslims need to get a fresh start on Mars, where maybe we could be free from wanting to chop our heads off for disagreeing with something they said. So, guys, you heard it here. We got to go to Mars to save ourselves from Islam.
I'm looking at footage of prisoners being freed from Syrian prison. The guy comes and says,
hey, we might want to cover that tomorrow, man, if you got some footage of that stuff.
He says, I've been gone for 10 years. What happened? And the guy says, the regime is down. They fell. And he starts celebrating and running.
Can you imagine you're locked up in a hole in the ground? You're all messed up mentally. And all of a sudden someone opens your door and you're like, hey, what's going on? Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're free. Come out here. Now, what's creepy is there might be just be some political rivals down there. There might be some really, really messed up people down there, too. So, anyway, interesting times ahead. We're going to have to check that out, man, because that is some interesting stuff, who he's got in his political dungeons and so on.
He is responsible for the killing of hundreds of thousands of people. He made a habit of locking up anyone whom he perceives as a threat. The guy is a maniac who didn't have hardship, who is like a spoiled kid that got into power and is just being a completely messed up psychopath to whoever crosses him. And what did he do? What did he do when things got really serious and when they came and encircled him? He left all of his loyal minions behind and boom, fled like a little...
And I told you, he'll be living quite comfortably in Russia.
Like a little dog.
And by the way, what does that say about jihadis, ladies and gentlemen? That we're sitting there looking at Assad, who's killed hundreds of thousands of people, who had all sorts of people in his dungeon, even little kids who were born and raised in a dungeon. And we're looking at this guy going, oh, things are going to get so bad now that he's gone. Why? Because jihadis are taking over, and jihadis are actually worse. Rough times ahead.
I think but the good thing is that now all the Syrian refugees in Europe and all over the West can now safely go back and live in Syria. So I encourage all Syrian refugees who are in the West to
talking to you, Syrian girl,
pack their things and go back to Syria. I'm not saying this in a bad way when I say go back to Syria. I'm just saying
go back to Syria where you belong.
It's good. It's safe there apparently now. So go back to Syria. Everything's going to be fine. Just it's time to leave now.
You heard it here, folks. Everyone who spread around the world from Syria, things are safe. Things are better. Book a flight to Damascus. Everything's going to be better. Or to Aleppo. They've got the Aleppo airport too. So multiple super safe spots to land in. If you believe anything you've been saying for the past several years.
Get out of here.
All right, guys. We will catch you all next time.
Inshallah.